The story begins on a hot summer night. A teenager is home alone while his parents travel, eager to enjoy his freedom. The neighborhood is shrouded in an unusual, heavy and unsettling silence. After watching a movie, he goes to the kitchen to get something to drink and notices something strange in the garden, a tall, motionless silhouette by the back fence. He tries to convince himself that he is just the parasol, but the feeling of discomfort does not disappear. As she returns to her room, stories she had heard about the nearby forest begin to echo in her mind. Ancient legends tell of mysterious figures watching for intruders and unexplained sounds, warning of impending dangers. He tries to push away these thoughts, but the silence of the night seems to amplify his sense of being watched. Throughout the night, the teenager notices something even more disturbing. The silhouette in the garden seems to have moved, even if slightly. Fear begins to grow. He decides to call his friend Chris to help him. Chris arrives quickly, and together they observe the garden. Initially, Chris tries to rationalize, suggesting that it could just be a forgotten object. However, as he looks closer, he also senses that something is wrong. The forest behind the house begins to become a menacing presence, with its dense darkness seeming to hide secrets. Sounds begin to emerge, crackling of dry branches and a rhythmic click that sounds disturbingly close. Even though they are afraid, the two friends decide to go out to investigate the garden, armed only with a flashlight. As they walk through the garden, the sound of the clicks gets louder and seems to surround them. The figure that was once on the fence has disappeared, but the feeling of being watched only increases. Each step is accompanied by a growing fear, as the surrounding shadows seem to move imperceptibly. They retreat into the house, locking the doors, but the sound does not disappear. On the contrary, it gets even closer now, coming from outside the window. Suddenly, a new element emerges, a distorted voice that tries to imitate human words, calling Chris's name in a grotesque way. Terrified, the friends realize that the house is no longer safe. With no other option, they decide to run towards the forest, hoping to lose whatever is chasing them. The forest, once just a backdrop for horror stories, is now a living labyrinth of shadows and sounds. The two friends run, but the creature follows them. Not only is she fast, but she seems to play with them, appearing and disappearing among the trees, moving unnaturally. Its limbs are long and bend at impossible angles, and its eyes shine like small lights in the darkness. The clicks now come from all directions, confusing friends. Each shadow seems to hide something, and the sound of the creature's footsteps grows closer with each moment. When all seems lost, they spot a light in the distance, a streetlight on the road. With the last of their strength, they run towards the light, while the creature seems to intensify its pursuit. Finally, they reach the road, where the light from the streetlight creates a barrier between them and the creature. She stops at the edge of the forest, hesitating to cross into the light. The friends, exhausted, fall to the ground as they watch the creature slowly disappear among the trees, taking with them the sound of clicks. Back in the neighborhood, the two friends meet an elderly man who helps them and listens to their stories. He reveals that the forest is known for its mysteries and that others have reported similar experiences. His words, though full of understanding, offer no comfort. Friends know that something has changed forever. In the following days, they try to return to normality, but the impact of that night remains. The garden, once familiar, now seems threatening, and the silence of the night is never comforting again. Every little sound or shadow makes them relive fear. The parasol, which once seemed to be just an ordinary object, is now a symbol of everything they cannot explain. The story ends with a question that resonates with the audience. And you, what would you do if you found something that challenged your understanding of the world? Would you face it or run away? Perhaps the unknown does not need to be understood. Perhaps it exists to remind us of our limits.